Hello everyone, and thanks for coming back to the channel. This is the Nemesis-X from BRDM Quads. I built mine using a Runcam Swift 2, BBB 1105 7500 kV motors, 15 amp Emax Bullet ESCs, F3 flight controller with an OSD, VTX is a TX02, running the GymFan 2540 props. Yes, that's an HD cam. I also use my favorite battery strap from Airblade UAV. With the HD cam, the Nemesis-X weighs 115.28 grams. Without the HD cam, it weighs 89.69 grams. The HD cam weighs 24.86 grams. The camera plates measure 1.7 millimeters. Bottom plate is 3 millimeters. The distance between the bottom plate and the top plate measures 15 millimeters. Motor post to motor post, I'm getting 127 millimeters. First off, I have to cover the fact that this video isn't fully baked. I'm going to be doing this in stages. If we'd have had time this spring and summer to do this, if the frame would have been ready and cut and the camera and everything, we would have been working on this and had more of a full-fledged, feature-rich video. So what I have planned is a couple of part video. In this video, we're mainly going to talk about the quad in this form factor and as well as the camera a little bit and some of the challenges of running an HD camera on a micro. And then we'll have a build video that will come out here shortly, and then after the build video I will retune this as it's built and just fly it without the HD camera. And then the last bit will be the new frame that will allow us to run the Zeus board, which is an all-in-one ESC flight controller board. They have made adjustments to the camera mount housing in order to be able to accommodate that. So then we'll be able to do a comparison between something that's more traditionally built and then something that's built with a little less weight. Running an HD cam or adding this much weight to the vehicle is going to present some obvious challenges. One, you're going to reduce your flight time. There's just no two ways about that. You can throw on a big, giant, heavy battery so you can get 3 minutes of flight, but you're going to have to do a lot of straight line cruising. That's not how I fly, so I wasn't interested in that. What I did fly is with our typical G&B blue and silver batteries, 3S, 550 milliamp. I think that works pretty well. You get close to a 2-minute flight with the HD camera on board. With that, I think one of the things that we have to come to expect is the fact that, I should clarify here a little bit, there are going to be some changes in this cam from what you might see in the production version. If we look closely, you may have noticed that there is some remnants of glue around here. They have talked about cleaning that up. This is one of two cameras. Alex sent me his. No. Blair sent me his. Alex is keeping his, and he's still continuing to run it, and you've probably seen some footage posted online. But what they've done is they've taken a Mobius Mini, and they've modified it, obviously, using a 3D printed case, which I think is quite well done. It survived all the crashing I've put it through. It has some heat dissipation here. I'm not sure what they found that increases that, but we obviously have some angle here. And something else that it's not going to be a mystery to them, we've already talked about it, but when you're running a wide angle lens, I'm not certain that the default angle lines up with center on this. It's very hard to tell when you're comparing the DVR and the HD footage. And I've got this lowered all the way down to the bottom that I can, and I'm running that 2.1mm lens. And it always kind of felt like in the HD footage when I, as the pilot, was watching it, is that it was missing a little bit from the vertical view. And they've noted that this camera does have limited vertical view. It's very wide, and I don't think you'd call it letterboxing. I forget what it's called, where it's not squished, but it just doesn't have that much vertical view. They have attempted to adjust that with lenses, but it seems as though the sensor is very sensitive to lenses, so if you try to increase that vertical point of view, you end up with other image artifacts that aren't good. The other part to talk about with running an HD camera, you're going to need to work more on your tune. That was a very big learning process for me. Typically when I fly, I don't get really hung up on my tune. I usually get a tune to where I kind of like how it feels and flies, and then I just go and I fly and I have fun. In this case, in order to get some decent footage to show you, I had to work on the tune quite a bit. Now, the motors still sound a little bit weird, but I'm no expert on how these motors should sound through an HD or with a microphone on board. I've done it with the camera microphones, but it's so bad I can't tell if the motor's doing something odd or not. But Blair and Alex, I've sent them some of my footage, and they did think that the motor sounded a little bit off, as though my tune might be off. So you can judge my tune, but judge me, don't judge the equipment necessarily, because I do think it does work quite well. And obviously with this case, you mount it down to the 4 posts that secure the top plate to the bottom plate. Running this camera is really, really simple. You'll see it's got a spring-loaded eject, just like it does in the typical Mobius. I didn't have any problems with that coming out. If you're hypersensitive to that, you could throw a piece of tape over that, and that would surely secure it. Also, you'll notice kind of a top and bottom. There's a line right through here. And that's because the two pieces come together to secure everything. And there is some slight... I don't even know if it'll come through in video. There is some slight shifting, so they have modified the production cases to where they'll have more of a latch down here, so it'll secure the two halves a little bit more, so we shouldn't suffer from any lens jiggle, which I don't think we're suffering from in this case. You know, Blair and I have been over this a few times. I don't think there's any problems there. I don't think this is a recommended place for the antenna, but that's where I put it, and I put it there because I really didn't have anywhere else. And you'll notice our blank area here in the back, that is where they have a very nice molded LED lights. I did not plan far enough ahead when I put my ESCs on. You can see it's kind of tight. You kind of have to push things around here with your motor wires. So I didn't have enough space because that LED does take up all the vertical space you have on the posts. Something to plan for on your builds that I didn't necessarily plan out great. Using a Zeus board will oftentimes remedy that issue. It does have a slot made for strain relief of our battery connection, and that's good. You also notice these notches here on the side. That's where our battery strap will go. Keep this battery strap from moving into our posts, where it should, so it shouldn't knock our flight controller loose. You can see I'm running a Lemon satellite, and I've opted to run the antennas down here along the side. I did that simply by taking a zip tie along the bottom nylon nut, running it out, securing it down, and then take my, I've got a little bit of foam tape underneath that receiver, and then I run the line down through here, and a little bit of heat shrink, and we're good to go. There's a little bit of floppiness there, you can see, but it'll be fine. It has been fine. I think we're really starting to open the door to micros. I'm noticing more names that are more popular in the 5-inch arena, whether it's racing or freestyle, are starting to take note of micros. So I think most of them are headed towards 3-inch, but I think it's kind of all over the place. And it's very exciting to see new developments out of companies like this with BRDM quads and their take on things. Let's take the top camera off. Now that I got this off, we'll just take it for a slow beauty spin so you can see how it's assembled. Now, I will be sending this camera back. This is not mine to keep, so any questions you may have, I may be able to help you with, but it may be a little bit of a shot in the dark because I won't have it as a reference point. There are the two screws securing the back to the front. And the material is good and hard. It doesn't feel brittle. It has been painted, but I think I think what you'll see in the production version will not only look better, but I'm sure they'll make continued improvements to it as well. And then we have the vehicle now, I guess you would call it in a naked state, but it gives us a better idea of the layout from the top standpoint. You can see that I can see my LED, and I did line that up a little bit to where this would be underneath, but yet I would still have an idea about the LED. You can see a little bit of my wires from my camera down to the board for the OSD, and you can also see the design and pattern that they've used. But I think the part that's outside of all the little cuts, you know, when you make a frame, you have all these little decisions you have to make about every little cut, and why do you cut this out, and why do you not cut that out, or where do you put your slots, or how much distance do you make between your slots, because everybody's going to look at these and then say, oh, the carbon's either cut the wrong way, or it's going to, you know, there's a weak point right here. But if you take a look at the bottom and where everything's spaced, I think they've done a nice job of creating a distance between any hole or slot in the material versus the next hole or slot. There's a pretty good distance. And again, we're talking about something at maximum is going to still weigh under 200 grams. I think if you put a battery on here over 200 grams, it still won't break, but, you know, you'll find a way, I guess, if you want to. But let's take another look at the side plate here. This is some ingenious working here, and it's going to be a little bit difficult because of our components. I wish I had a naked piece to look at. But what they've done is they've created an interlocking nose piece here, and that cuts down on the amount of hardware that we might need. We just have the one rod right here in order to keep the camera plates from coming too close together or too far apart. And of course, our camera itself probably provides a little bit of structural stability, and then we have the slotting that's done on both the bottom and the top for the camera, and it does fit very tightly. It is milled in there just so. You shouldn't get any play with this carbon sliding back and forth. You actually have to get things lined up quite well in order to get the top plate on and then secure it down. And the nose really, it doesn't move at all. It is locked in place. And again, if you're looking to run this without independent ESCs, you're wanting to use that Zeus board with a 4-in-1, you can do that in the new version. They have taken this piece right up here and they've moved it forward to give us some extra space to run the Zeus board. And on the next iteration, which I believe they've already shipped me a copy of it, but when I get that in and get that running, it will be able to accommodate that Zeus board. So I'm interested to see the difference in weight, because obviously we would just have motor wires all the way in. We would be eliminating the weight of the extra wires off of the ESCs as well as the ESC hardware itself. Not necessarily eliminating, but we would be reducing. That is of particular interest to me, because I'm curious if how much that we can offset, and then if we add it back on, how does it affect flight performance and what we can do with it. One important factor that I mentioned earlier and then I skipped over, we have the notches on the bottom for our battery strap when we have it bottom mounted. We have the same notches up top, so we can put the battery right on top, get that battery closer to our prop line, and hopefully we see an improved performance, right? Or it'll fly differently at the very least. So we'll get to explore that more now that I have the HD camera off, and I can actually compare this version with the 4 traditional ESCs versus the Zeus as well. I do think this is probably our first step into seeing more HD type footage in micros. I know the run can split. Dimitri's got a frame from FlexRC that accommodates the run cam split. I'm not sold on that yet. I think it's still early. They came out with 2 iterations. The second iteration seemed to be like major bug fixes, and the first iteration was kind of a rush to market. Now we've seen it kind of settle a little bit, so we'll see what their next iteration is before we really go on board and start to see that the HD footage. This might be the best route, and who knows, BRDM could be working on a camera of their own, maybe something different. Maybe they're not using the Mini Mobius. Maybe they found another camera that they want to modify and use. But this is where they've started. This is what they've set. And this is what we have to look at as of right now. I think that covers it. I think if you have any comments or questions, please let me know. I will be going on vacation shortly for the over the New Year's with my family. It will be a full week. We'll be pretty much incommunicado. I won't be having much time on the internet, if much internet at all, so I will do my best to get with you guys on those questions. If others of you have experience with this frame, I think they were selling this frame for a short time before they went to V2. You know, hopefully you can chime in and answer some of those questions while I'm away. Okay, I appreciate your time, and thanks for watching.